The star of today's video is going to be this Honda HS520 4-stroke single-stage snowblower. This one I got for free. It was basically the kind of thing you find at the end of the road that somebody's throwing away. And it's a rather valuable model. The Hondas usually sell for pretty good money. I know nothing about it. Looks like that might not be a factory hole. Maybe somebody was trying to get to the carburetor linkage there, playing around with something. Don't know if that's a factory cap that's supposed to be there or if that's just somebody drilled something for easy access. But let's see what we have and what we don't. Let's get into it. So let's start by the activation system. That feels normal. Engine switch. That looks like a standard toggle switch. Did somebody put that on or did it come that way? On, off. Fuel valve is in the on position. Don't know what that used to be. We've got a cord here. 5W20 oil is supposed to be in there. Let's see what we had for oil. Got to get you set up here. There we go. That hasn't been off there in quite some time. And we have plenty. Let's check the other stuff. Spark plug hole goes here. Get you on the tripod here. Okay, doesn't look like anybody's been tampering. Looks like it's in there. I don't hear a single drop. That might be the best thing that ever happened to this machine. If somebody's put it away without fuel in it. And as I said, this is a 4-stroke. And if you're not familiar, that means you do not mix oil into your fuel. Let's just see what this thing will do or won't do. Looks like this is a little loose here. No big deal. On. Ah, that's what we're missing. The choke pull. I didn't see that before. Bring you around there. That's where the choke is supposed to be. That's probably why we have a hole here. So somebody could stick their little mitt in there and move that black knob, which I just did. So now it's to the front position. That's what this hole is for. They lost the choke knob and the rod for it. So if you didn't know how to manipulate that, you would have a heck of a time starting this, I'm sure. Yeah, and pull should be on, so that should be the on position there. I'm just going to cycle this switch a few times, just because maybe it's a little cruddy. Yeah, that should be off, that should be on. And I could see this thing doesn't feel right, and I think it's leaking a little bit, so we may have to replace that. Oh yes, and this is an aftermarket switch. Here's the original position for that. I'm just seeing it for the first time as you are. Maybe it got flipped. I haven't heard a single pop. Okay, I mean business now. I mean business. Let's see what it takes to get into this machine. Looks like we got to take the chute off, and then maybe 4 bolts or maybe more to get the housing apart. This one's already loose. Is there a nut on the other side of that? There looks like there is. That's why it's loose, I guess. Got you in the shot here? Sure don't. Yeah, that's about what I thought. Dropped my earbud. I usually just go for the motor first, and then we'll look at, belts, everything else. If we haven't got a motor, we're probably dead in the water with the build. Let's just see if we win. Different size on the other side? No, it's a carriage bolt, and it's stripped out on the other side. Oh, that's not good at all. Well, the question is, do I even have to get those really off, or can I just pull this up enough to make it where I can access when I need to access? Well, that gasket's shot. Oh, got more bolts. Thought it felt like it wasn't coming very easily. And they've put this switch up here, so now you can't take that cover off without disconnecting the switch. So we'll have to watch for those wires. Yeah, it looks like I can get that out of the way enough to do what I need to do here. Good. All right, before we get to splashing fuel, let's get this back on here. I'm a little suspicious of this kill switch, just for starters. I've tried using standard switches on-off toggles, and sometimes they can arc through and still kill the engine because they aren't designed for spark. They are designed for electricity. Regular switches just aren't designed for spark high voltage. They're designed just for electricity, so they may not work in an application like this. But what we're going to do to rule some things out is we're going to take some fuel. In this case, I'm going to spray it into this carburetor. This carburetor is different than most I've seen. It just grabs the fuel, the air from the bottom, so it's waterproof from the top. So it's a little bit hard to put some fuel in there through any normal means. I'm going to try to just get it under there, and let's see what we can with my little nozzle. Or here, you know what I'll do? Wait a minute, what's this here? Here is a, even better. This must be, was that crankcase ventilation at one time? Whatever it is, we're putting some fuel into this thing. Do I have you zoom too far? I do. This tube here, I turned it upright. We're putting some fuel in there. I don't know if it'll just dribble out. There we go. Hey, we got an engine that runs. Doesn't run well, but it runs. So that's a good start. Now I notice, as most things with a bad carburetor go, it runs better on choke. It surges less than it does off choke. And also when it's on choke, it's not even getting so much fuel that it's puffing out black smoke out the exhaust. So what I want to do, I may end up just taking the whole carburetor off, but I'd like to get that little jet out of there. And the only way you can do it is to get that screw out of there. And if I use the bigger screwdriver, can I get through sideways here? Yeah, they cut a little hole in this bracket. Must have been just for this reason. Okay, not as ridiculous as I thought. There we go. I think this thing's been sitting a while, is my guess. The jet is down in there. Now we're not going to take it out. We're just going to flush it out. Spray some carb cleaner right down the jet. Let me get you a shot in there so you can see what I'm doing. Now you can see we're looking straight down there. We see that brass part inside. That's what we're going for. I'm spraying some down through the jet, but I'm also spraying it around because there's usually a passage that comes from the carburetor bowl into that area. And we want some to go down that hole too. Now as far as the low speed, as far as the adjustment, this thing here is the adjuster. And we can see that is, there's a paint line on it. on the opposite side of the camera, and this thing wants to cross thread. Let me go backwards a little bit. What happened to you? There we go. This is right where the factory had it, but I'm going to move it up and down a little bit, and that can make the crust, if there's some crust on there, fall off a little bit. Not saying there was crust, just if there was crust, you can help it along a little bit. The adjustment on this is not terribly important because that's idle, and this doesn't have anything but a governor. It doesn't have, it just runs full speed the whole time. All right, let's see if that gets us running any different. Back you off a little bit here. I'm still going to give it choke. We're probably flooded actually because I just put all that fluid in there. Okay, that carburetor is going to have to come off of there. If I put that in choke mode, it should make that engine slow down and run way too rich. Well, it's not doing that, so that means we have a restricted carburetor. To access my carburetor, I need to take off this bottom piece here. And well designed, nothing had to come off. It would have had to come, the key switch would have had to come out of there if this was all original, but it is not. Now we have access. I think this just gets me the airbox part. It looks to me like, oh, look at this. It's got a little cup there so the gas doesn't spill out. How about that? Oh, and here's why it hasn't been starting. Let me get you a close-up. I'll bet you that's why they got rid of it. They couldn't get it to start because the choke isn't working. Watch this. I'll move the lever, and that thing there just flicks wherever it wants to flick. Am I showing you that? Those are supposed to be moving together. So yeah, that's why it won't start for anybody. It would only start when I primed it. That's exactly why you would throw it away. So really the inside of that black cap is basically stripped out. So we may be just looking at a new carburetor, and I'm not opposed to it. Nothing better than an OEM Honda carburetor though. They do run really good. But I'm not above a cheap Chinese replacement if we go that way, because That explains why they were having so much trouble with the choke, because it wasn't working. And that explains why I can pull on it 50,000 times and not get a good running engine to start. Same reason. There we go. We got us a carburetor. That actually explains more than a few things, being that this is stripped out. Moves a little bit, but you can see they can move independently here, and that's not supposed to happen. Just now it just went back. Something just, I heard a click. Something must not have been seated, because now it's working perfectly. And it's firmly attached. So Johnny Fix-It was in there playing around. Didn't get this thing to snap down in or something. I'm just speculating. Okay. Anyway, what I was starting to say, did I finish? It makes sense if this wasn't closing the choke plate, why I wasn't getting a rich condition, because it was not activating the choke plate. It was basically staying almost right where it was. And that's going to make it impossible to start. And if you've already got some clogs and stuff, oh yeah, this has been sitting a while. There's some pretty good crust on there. I don't know if you can see that. Pretty good crust going. So we'll clean this up. A little bit down in the bottom. Hard to show in the shadows here, I understand. But we'll take this all apart. We'll try cleaning it, and if that doesn't work, we'll just get a new carburetor. Most likely it's very inexpensive. Well designed with the drain on it. That's smart. For people that are off season, to drain it out, it's, especially for a snowblower where you're just using it for a short duration of the year and then putting it away. Very smart to put that on a snowblower. Difficult to tell if that's turning or stripping. Not turning. Now it is. Okay, I think we got it. Nope, a couple more. It's like stuck to my screwdriver. That's awesome. I don't know how that happened. If it was just stuck sideways. That was pretty cool. See if I can push it. I'm going for what they call the emulsion tube. The screw part is separate usually. Come on out of there. It's just got some crust on it somewhere that won't break free. Try to get it in the grooves like I had it before. It was like stuck in there. It was like pulling it. difficult. I pushed it as far as I can push it. Okay, plan B with other tools. Can I get the hook tool in the jet without ruining everything? Can I put it in here? There it goes. Now will the emulsion tube drop out or won't it? Doesn't look like it's going to be happy about it. Try to push it back up. Work it back and forth a little. Yeah, there's just some crud in there. Anyway, let's look at this to see how clear this is. And that is partially obstructed. So I will clean that out for sure. But I wouldn't mind getting that emulsion tube out because that would help us make sure all the junk is out. The main thing you want to clean is that. So if I can't get the tube, it's not the end of the world, but it would be nice. Okay, and then while I'm here, I'm going to open these back up again and flush everything through. Once you put it back on the machine, everything gets that much more difficult. Come on, tube, come out of there. Plan C. Got a nice long pick. If I can get in the end of that thing and kind of go on a little bit of an angle. Yeah, it's almost there. It just doesn't want to fall. There we go. Ooh, is that crusty? Look at that. We're going to do some major good getting all that crust out. So what this is it's a tube with little holes in the sides. So there's a hole there. There's a hole there. There's one there. There's one there. And probably some that could be covered over. I don't know. Doesn't seem like that's all of them. But all you need is one little piece of crust on there. Yeah, there's one here. There's one here. And there's one there. And they're totally blocked. So I think we'll be able to salvage what carburetor we have here. Let me get this all cleaned up, bring you back. So now you can see the size of my palm compared to the size of those holes is quite small. Worry not, there's a tool just for this. Well, it's actually made for welding torches, welding torch tip cleaners. I'll put a link in the description. And what this is several different sizes, and some of them have like serrated. So they, if you do use the serrated ones, don't go in there and hog it out. Just poke through and you're pretty much done. Don't make the hole bigger. That is not desirable. They're made as specific certain small size for a reason. You don't want to hog that out to whatever size you feel like making. And there we go. See, we got it through. And that one there won't go at all. It's hard as a rock. Got it through the first side. Probably a great way to poke your finger. There we go. Got it through one side. Got it through the other side. Like I say, the object is not to make them bigger. It's just to make sure they're open. Up here, that's cross-drilled. There we go. Now I'm going to go looking from end to end. See if we can get you a shot of that against the white. And we're clear there too. So we could just verify. Some of these are much larger. So there we are. Again, we're not rotting it out. We're just making sure it's open. Same thing with this jet here. We can see that it's not open all the way. And every bit of fuel your engine needs to drink comes through that little hole. So all you need is a little obstruction. Start with the small one. If you had micro-sized drill bits, you could do the same thing. That's all we're doing. Making sure it's open. I don't know if it really will show up on camera. Oh, just dropped it on the ground. Saw where it went though. Okay. I don't know if you can really see on camera, but it's definitely bigger. And by that I mean because it's open now. So this guy, we'll put that back up in there. Then this tightens up against it and holds it in place. I'm going to run some carburetor cleaner through all this too. You could dip these in an ultrasonic. That's a very popular thing. Especially among YouTubers. And what that helps you do is get all the little passages inside. It vibrates ultrasonic waves, and that'll help you clean out all the internal passages, which can and will get plugged. I think this thing was sitting for quite some time. That we'll just put all the way up till it stops. Oh, it got stuck on my tool. And then this guy, don't cross-thread it. And also, just a note, if you've never done this, a standard number 2 screwdriver is a little too fat. And as you're trying to put that in there, you're ruining the threads for this bowl nut to go into. So go smaller than a standard. Tech tip of the day. The other ones are just a little too wide. You could just, if that's all you had, you could take it to a grinder and knock it off. But I have a smaller than standard screwdriver here. I just have a size that I call a standard, and I don't know if it's 1/4 inch or whatever, but make sure you don't have any fluid in there. If you do, you have to throw it away. It's gone. Let's see how many times I have to put this back on. That's 1. Got it in. Almost. I'm not sure how this was clocked originally. Let's just line this up with that, maybe. This would face the front of the machine so you can get after it. I don't know. A wiser man would rewind his own video. Don't need to go crazy there. It's got a gasket. Put the idle stop screw back. Good. Let's get this back on the machine. I've got you around the side this time. So I've got this link. That's for the throttle. Goes from the governor rod to our throttle on our carburetor. And I don't remember which side goes where. So we're just going to try it one way. And if it doesn't seem right, we'll go the other way. Let's see. That does seem right. Okay. New gasket for me today? No, thank you. Fuel line back on. Oh no! You know what? This gasket does almost nothing because this is unfiltered air anyway. So I'm going to take it off and leave it off. If you would like to put a new gasket on yours, you're welcome to. Let's see. Which screws and bolts was I using? Let me get those and I'll bring you back. Of course, the ones that would be long enough to make it. Let's see if that governor. Yeah, that's the right way for that link or rod, if you want to call it. Okay. All right. This will stay out of the way of things. Good. I think that's proper. If it was this way, then that would have been curving over towards this more. So that makes sense that it was there. This was just wherever, down there. Okay. Our little air box. I think they just do that so it's not picking up water dripping in there. It can only suck water from the bottom. Or air, I mean. And it's not going to bring up water. There we go. And when you're testing, it's always good to have the proper air filter in place. It may run different if you have adjustments to make. It may run different with the cover on versus off. May restrict the airflow or change the pattern a little bit. Okay, let's get this tipped up and let's see what we have. Okay, I'll go choke on. Engine switch on. Fuel is on, so that should be filling it up. Give that just a minute to fill that bowl. Throttle is free so it won't run away on us. I think we're looking okay. It's possible we have it flooded already, so let's go no choke. Maybe still filling the carburetor. That's on, right? On is over, yeah. Engine switch on. Okay. I know a lot of times when you tilt an engine like that, you can get oil in the cylinder too, which isn't really good. I'll try choke. I have reason to believe it's flooded. I'm gonna let it sit just a minute and see if it's gonna unflood itself. If not, we'll pull the spark plug and look. Try a few more. I think we are so flooded because it didn't fire right off the bat. Let's pull that plug and take a look what we have there. I haven't looked at the plug yet. And that'll tell me if it's wet. I know it's terribly flooded, or if it's soaked with oil from me tipping it and making the cylinder leak oil in there. I'll know that too. That is one long plug. Oh, dry as a bone. What? Okay. I guess we're not getting fuel yet. All right, I'm just gonna clean up this plug a little bit. What I like to do is just take something and just get a little bit on the electrode and a little bit there. Just make sure that it's not carbon fouled. Carbon is a great insulator, and it may look good, but it may not be able to jump the gap. So for some reason, I've got 0 fuel in the engine when I thought I was flooded. So what that means is I'm not getting fuel in there somehow. Whether this fuel thing isn't feeding, I don't know why that would be. Oh, there it goes. Much better. Much better. Up, up, up. Okay, classic fuel starvation. It runs for a little bit, then it coughs, goes down to low idle, almost dead, then comes back up when it gets a few more dribbles of fuel. And that also makes sense with the initial problem of I couldn't get it started after tipping it back up. So I think I have, for some reason, a very tiny dribble of fuel coming in, not near the amount that we need to run an engine. So let's just verify that now. If I start it up now after it's had a chance to get some fuel in it, it should run for a longer period of time. And also, I never shut the choke off. That could be part of the problem too. Yeah, it was a choke. If I go to choke, it's getting too much fuel. Okay, I might be getting a new carburetor for this one. What that means is the low speed circuit. There's two circuits in the carburetor. There's the low speed, which is adjusted by that, and the high speed, which is not adjustable on this carburetor. The low speed is giving us nothing. So when it goes on low throttle, it's got no fuel. Then it has to try to go to full throttle, catch up, no fuel, catch up, low fuel, catch up. That's why it's jumping like that. So what I was trying to do is put the choke on. A lot of times if they run better with the choke on, there's a classic sign that you got a clog. So I'm going to look up how much that carburetor is, and then I could look up the link and the little choke knob or whatever they had on there, and then I'll look. Let's look at the other parts on this while we're here. So only because I'm confident that I'll be able to get that engine to run will I even look at anything else on the machine to try to fix it. Things like this I don't worry about. It's, something hit it, probably somebody backed into it with the car or whatever. But what we want to see is the typical pieces that go together are the paddles, the scraper bar, and the belt. So we can see fairly quickly the scraper bar. It's all complete. It's got some rolling up on it, but if that was an issue, I could just trim that. So I'm okay with that. These rubber paddles are plenty worn. Usually, I know on the Toros, they make a little drill mark through somewhere, and then when you get down to that, then that's considered worn out. But these ones, I'm feeling how much. Right here, it's got a finger's worth of play, but then it gets less after that, so it can throw it. That would be, probably considered worn out, but if I'm going to sell this, one thing I found is you can put any amount of money into these things, and no one will pay you for it. You can put new paddles, new scraper bar, new belt. Nobody cares. They'll pay you the same amount. They just want something that moves some snow. They don't care if it throws it as far as it should or scrapes as good as it can. They generally don't care, at least in my area here. This is an interesting idea. They got a little bit of curve on here, whereas I know some of the Murrays, this is straight across. That's quite interesting. And it looks like it's supposed to be like that. It doesn't look like it's bent. So I think we're worn but not used up. And then I just want to get a peek at that belt. Now, one thing on a snowblower belt, this is completely encased on all sides, so you can't peek in there and you can't just see something. They do that because if that gets wet at all, as soon as you hit the heavy snow, it'll just stop. The impeller will just stop and the motor will just burn out the belt. It'll just spin on it. So let's see if we can even get these old bolts out to see what we want to see. And I'm about 50% sure this is a bad idea. Yep. That's rust for you. Okay, that's how we're gonna go today, huh? Okay. Okay. Let's try number 2. What? Yeah, it did. How would you ever get to the other side of that one? Okay. Let me guess. Another broken one? I think I got to do this ratchet from the backside or something. How do you even get in there? Oh, Honda, they're so great. They're so, nothing ever break. They're perfect. Well, maybe not this one. I don't think I can even get back there. If I pry that out, that's really silly they didn't put a captive nut on something. Oh, that one is. Oh, I take it back. I take it back. They did. I just didn't know that. But not that one. I just want to look in there. I don't need to take it all the way off. I'm hoping it's going to be acceptable. Oh, there it goes. Oh yeah, it's all wrapped around there. Well, I could see in there. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to. Well, they'll probably see in there better than I can. I can see that that belt is not in bad shape. It's been living happy in there, which is good for me. Let's get this put back together. And let's see, were these different? Yep. That one has a step on it. Whoa. And you need a new one. Oh, that one had a nut on it. I did not know that. Okay, plan B. Show you how we're going to fix that. We're going to take this, start drilling. We're going to put a bolt through it, 1/4 20, and And we're gonna forget like it ever happened. So let's recap where we're at. We checked the belt, it's good enough. Scraper blade, good enough. Paddles, good enough. Engine, good enough to run, but not running how it should. So we are gonna, now that I've gotten a look over the whole machine, I'm gonna figure out some way of getting the choke rod. If they don't make it anymore, we'll just make one. And we need a replacement carburetor if affordable. If not, I'll take this one apart, run it through the ultrasonic, do the whole thing. But most likely, because it's a Honda, it probably has some Chinese replica parts available, which will be running much better than what we have. So that's where we're going to go. Could change up the story later, but that's what I'm planning on at the moment. Back out here today with the Honda Harmony HS520 snowblower. I got it propped up in the what I call the service position on a snowblower, tilted forward, so you can usually get at things easier. Most of the two-stage ones, that's the preferred method. It's not tilting the engine too far. In this one, actually, if you look at what's level, the cylinder is still facing down, so you shouldn't fill up the oil too much past the rings if you've got it on this angle. Anyway, what we got? Honda choke rod with the handle with the rod. I went with the OEM Honda carburetor. It was cheap enough. And when I was looking on the parts breakdown, I realized that little spring in there, you could barely see it through the package, but that is supposed to be on this rod, which we have none. And we could even see there's an extra hole there. So we can guarantee that Johnny Fix-It has been in here more than once playing with that carburetor. We already knew that by the hole cut in there for them going in here and playing around. And probably when they were doing that, they knocked the spring off, or they took the carburetor off and had the spring off. Anyway, what we got is everything to put this back to OEM. I did not worry about the switch because that on-off switch does do its job. And we're going to put all OEM parts, and hopefully this thing will run terrific. Got you set up on the side there for viewing clarity. Honda actually makes their OEM carbs competitive priced, so it's almost not worth looking for an aftermarket carburetor. They do make a good carb. There's nobody that's going to say they're not giving you a good one, you know, that aftermarket would be better than. And I really believe that they would put the quality control in every time. Whereas, you know, usually the cheap aftermarket ones fit and work. But there's been people with funny run problems and find out, you know, I guess if we were to really take them apart, we'd probably find out the fluid passages weren't made just right, or there can be issues when you don't check quality. Get that fuel clamp backed off. This shouldn't be stuck on there that bad. Okay. Original carb I just got. Kehin is the name of this. Kehin, I think is the name of it. I don't know how you pronounce that, but anyway. I'll have to swap over the overflow drain line, or the drain line, I guess. That's not an overflow. That's the one that you can unscrew the screw that's facing us, and it'll drain out the carburetor. I've got to take that tube, swap that over. Other things I'm noticing, they didn't even bother putting the idle screw That screw touches the throttle plate there and will allow it to idle. But because this is on a snowblower, they just run full speed, so you'll never need it. Other things of note, they used to have a little bit of an adjustable jet there. New one, delete it. Probably EPA regulations. Other things of note, a little bit different shape there. But if you look when it's all the way in the clocked position, it's all the way that way. We look about where that is. If I was looking at from the top, it's hard to show you when I'm trying to do this one hand. But the hole for the rod is the one with the little insulator there, and the other hole is the one for the spring. They are shaped a little differently on the top here. Makes no difference in operation. The way if you got it all the way turned that way, it's the same distance. If you got that one turned all the way that way, same distance. So small variations, and it's made to fit. Okay, I don't see any gaskets here, so I put just a very small amount of gasket maker, not sealer. I'll put a link in the description. The stuff I like to use is called Right Stuff Permatex. Wonderful stuff, heavy bodied, very sticky. I'm going to put a little bit of that there. I don't know that it's gasket for this side. I had the carburetor turned around when I was trying to match it up. Now the hole's open. Okay, I'll have to move I saw the gasket move, don't worry. She's trying to spin. Carburetor, stay where you are. Now I got more pieces to line up in a row. There it goes. Okay. And before I forget, can I get that fuel line? Yeah, I can get the fuel line on afterwards. Pretty sure. Working on getting the fuel line back on. The clamp, I just slid it back over. Okay, the choke moves. And the governor rod moves without binding. This is clear of the rod down there. It's not going to get into the way. When that activates, good. Now, we got to get our little spring on. These are the things that you don't realize is missing if somebody else has worked before you. So I'm going to put, the spring has a long part and a short part. I'm going to put the long part over here so it can clear the linkage, which is likely the way it has to be. And the other end down. Almost got it first try. Down through the hole there. Yeah. One thing I'm seeing already, it's not at full throttle when the engine's off. It should be at absolute full throttle. So I have a reason to believe somebody's been messing with that governor arm. So now we're on to the next fix. So what we have here is what they call the governor arm. And this rod that we can see just the end of is going to move ever so slightly. If the engine RPM is low, it'll move one way. If the engine RPM is high, it'll move the other way, and that will keep your power good. So let's say you have no load on the engine, no snow, it'll run a certain speed. The second you're going to get into snow, it'll start giving it more throttle to keep the engine RPMs up and also prevent over revving. Well, somebody has adjusted this, and now I can see they've adjusted it because they've broken it in a small way. If we look right here, you see how what used to be a screwdriver slot, they broke the bottom half off of that? I'm pretty sure that was a screwdriver slot in the end of that shaft. Well, I don't know if you can tell from that angle, but you sure can from this angle, if I can get it to focus. Where am I? Where am I? Over, up, there. You can see that half of that is missing if it was a full round to begin with, which I suspect it was. So what we need to do is get that to go over a little more at full throttle. This thing here is a pinch bolt, pinches it down onto the shaft. Get you back a little further. That's ridiculously close. We'll get the pinch bolt loosened up. I'm going to get onto the shaft and be able to manipulate the governor parts inside the motor. That's full turn all the way there. And right there, the engine should be at full throttle. So when I'm looking at my carburetor, we can't see it because can't see anything right there, because if we were to open the throttle choke, the choke there, we should be able to look down there and see the throttle plate and see which way is open and which way is closed. And closed is no throttle, and open, so it's in the what would be the clockwise position, is full throttle. So we want the engine shaft, the part that's coming out of the engine governor, to be not like that, but all the way in that position while that rod is pushing that carburetor all the way open. Lock it down. I'm keeping a little tension to keep the pieces inside the motor clocked. There. And that should never need adjustment. Whoever was messing with that was fixing something they didn't know what they were doing. That's fine. We can put it back. But now, if we look, that carburetor here would be no throttle, and there's full throttle. And we could see by itself, by spring pressure, it's going to the max right here. It's hitting its maximum stop. That's how we want to start the engine. That's the proper way to start an engine. It has to be full throttle open on these in the resting position. Now just a little basic reassembly here. Put our little intake blocker. I don't know what you really call that plate. Let's not drop things here. Okay. Now let's see about this. This one should just go. Okay, here's how we're going to put this in. This is the choke bracket. So we're going to take this out. We're going to put our rod through it. We're going to put our rod straight down. Why does this rod look way thick for that? Because it is. Okay, OEM, but we're going to have to drill that out a little bit to get that to fit. There was a couple options on these, and this is the what do you call it, superseded part. They've made them different over the years, so I will get a drill and let you know what size it is. I'm going to start with 5/32 of an inch. So I'm going to try just giving that a little bit of cut there. And then I don't want to go too much and make that real weak, but I need it to go through. There we go, 5/32, first shot. And then we'll just slide this into its home. Now we got to choke again. All right, let's get this pointed in a way that gravity could feed fuel from our tank into our carburetor. We'll give that a little bit to fill up that carburetor because it's just a gravity feed system, of course, no fuel pump. Engine switch on, choke on, pull. Good. The fuel valve is on. Yep. Let's see what we got. We got a whole lot of nothing so far. Do I even have fuel in it? I don't remember what we left in there and what we didn't. Yeah, we got some fuel in there. Engine switch, assuming he's got it labeled right. There we go. Took just a minute to get it to warm up a little, but you can see now that governor is working perfectly, and the throttle plate is standing on its own, not at full, not at less than full, just floating around as it should. It shouldn't be to one extreme or the other. And I'm going to put I'm going to restart it now. I'm going to put the choke on, and you could hear that if a carburetor is right, it should malfunction with the choke on. If you have any kind of carburetor problem with a fuel, even a fuel contamination problem, you may be having to run it with half choke or something. That's always a sign you're not getting enough fuel. I'll start it with the choke on just because we barely ran it. But I'm gonna let it run for a minute, and then I'm gonna put the choke on, and it should misfire, get too much gas when I pull it. So if you ever get one that runs better on choke than not, you either got poor quality fuel, or the carburetor isn't mixing it right, or bad gasket leaking air past before the carburetor, something like that. So I'll put this one back together, and I'm going to hereby declare this Honda snowblower Wildwood certified. Thanks for watching. So if you watch this channel long enough, you know that I do every video free to everyone all the time. Nothing to buy here. But if you could please subscribe. Maybe put a comment in the comment section so YouTube knows you're watching. And also, if you have it in your means, if you can put one of those $$ things down below the video box there. And if you have money, and only if you have the money to do so, would you donate some to the channel? I would much appreciate that. Thanks for watching.